Hello and welcome to Bharat Lokriti Samvad. I'm delighted to be joined by Professor Vinod Kumar Sharma, a senior professor in IIPA and a Bhishma Pitame of disaster management. Welcome you, Professor Sharma, here in the show. Before we get into disaster management, I want to know a little bit about you. You joined the institute in 1992 from the university teaching. What made you to come to IIPA from the university system?
Actually, this is very interesting. My background is ecology, environment, and you rightly said I was teaching in universities in India as well as abroad. I started my career from a postgraduate college of Merit University as a lecturer. Then I went to Middle East. I was in Iraq for 5 years. I was in Libya. I was in Jordan, and these Middle East countries. And I was teaching ecology environment. Then I came to India in 1990 because of Gulf War, and then I was searching for job in this country. I gave several interviews, and I got three opportunities. One is in Center for Environmental Education in Ahmedabad, one in Ministry of Environment and Forest, and one in Indian Institute of Public Administration. So I preferred to join as because this was a teaching position. So I preferred Indian Institute of Public Administration and joined here in 1992.
Professor Saab, you were appointed as associate professor in environment and then you shifted to disaster management. How do you see this switchover from environment to disaster management?
This is again, I should say, maybe my destiny. Or you are right that I was faculty of environment, and I developed some courses for senior officers on management of environment and natural resources. I conducted courses for CPCB and other officials. But then I got opportunity to hold a workshop on disaster preparedness and mitigation. Actually, that whole decade was IDNDR, International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction, and United Nations, they were conducting workshops in each country. So in India, Ministry of Agriculture was the nodal ministry, and they asked IIPA to hold a workshop of relief commissioners, district collectors on disaster preparedness, mitigation. So for the first time in the country, the first workshop of disaster management or disaster preparedness and mitigation that was conducted here in IIPA in 1993. So that's how I started working in this area, and I got interested in this subject.
If I go back to time in the late 90s, the disaster management used to be under the Ministry of Agriculture. Then it moved from agriculture to the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, how do you see the journey of this subject from agriculture to home affairs and sitting here at IIPA? How do you see this kind of changeover?
Actually, NCDM was need of time, and Planning Commission was saying since last so many years that there should be a institute which can deal with the disaster management, but there was no such a place. Fortunately, this workshop, it recognized this institute as one place or maybe one option that let us start something. So I gave this proposal to the Ministry of Agriculture, and after some discussion, you know that in the government it takes time. But after several discussions, they agreed that we should have a center and start something from IIP. In fact, we were having a big vision in mind when I set up this center, this one of the objective was that we will cater the need of SAARC countries. One of the objective was this, and later on, not only NIDM becomes separate, but even the SAARC center was created in India, which we visualized that those days in 93, 94, that we should think of our neighboring countries. And because the disaster situation, disaster issues are same, in all SAARC countries at least. And India can lead. We have this capacity. So this was the vision that we should have a full-fledged institution, and we were thinking that it will be a big thing in Asia and provide opportunity for administrators, academicians, non-governmental organization. We were having a big thing in mind, when we start with this thing.
Now, a very personal questions. Do you have a very strong feeling that this NIDM is away from IIPA and is developing on its own, and you are contributing from outside? So, how do you see this?
It's a very good question, and Dr. Alok, we know that when the child grows, you can't keep a child, in your lap all the time. Uh, it get we started a center, and IIPA, I should say, have contribution in it. We nurtured it for about a decade, and but definitely, when something you develop. But at the same time, I am feeling happy that because in high-powered committee also we recommended that it's a big subject, and it's not only public administration or
The
environment.
high powered committee constituted in 99?
1999.
That's right.
Those days, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Bihari Vajpayee, he thought that every year, we are facing these floods, and he was very much disturbed by the Bihar flood those days. And Mr. Shastri, I don't remember his name, he was the agriculture minister.
Sompal Shastri.
Sompal Shastri.
That's right.
Sompal Shastri ji, he visualized that there should be a high-powered committee on disaster management and give recommendations. So I was also member of that, and we worked for more than 2 years for this thing. And it was a very good experience. We learned a lot, actually. We conducted 45 meetings with different stakeholders and give recommendations that what should be the structure and what should be there in disaster. So as I was mentioning, we recommended this thing, that it should be independent institute, and it should cater the need of Asian countries. In fact, a broad vision. And we were thinking that, instead of Ministry of Agriculture, there should be a separate ministry for disaster management. So this we recommended. Because we were talking different options. One option was this, which is given in the Act, National Disaster Management Authority.
Coming to that,
Yeah.
I was coming to that.
Yeah.
In fact, the constitution is silent, or somebody says very strongly is blind on disaster management. Despite that, there was an act in 2005, Disaster Management Act. What was the compelling reasons for this Disaster Management Act, and who was actually a person behind this act?
I should say that, even in high-powered committee, we gave a model act. And we were seeing the need of this act. We strongly recommended that there should be a national act. In fact, you rightly said that in Constitution, it is not clearly written whether it is a state subject or central list or concurrent list. So we thought that even the state should go for the acts, and we gave a model act. We gave model national act. We gave a state act also in the high powered committee. So from those days, this thinking was there. But then there was this, several disasters. And in 2004 tsunami, that was one time when the Honorable Prime Minister that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he realized that there should be act, on disaster management. And after 2004, this act was initiated and enacted in 2005. So it was series of the natural disasters those days. Start from 99 Odisha super cyclone, then 2001 there was Gujarat earthquake, then 2004 tsunami, then 2005 there was Kashmir earthquake, and so on and so forth. So need was realized, but the that was the proper time because tsunami affected a country like anything, and several states were affected. Normal natural disaster, one or two states are affected, but tsunami we have seen several states and several countries, and so then people realize, the policymakers, thinkers, they thought that there should be act now, and that's how the 2005 Disaster Management Act came.
If I go back to time, the disaster management used to be under the Ministry of Agriculture. Then it moved from agriculture to the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, how do you see the journey of this subject from agriculture to home affairs, and why agriculture was looking after this before MHE?
Actually, I was seeing the history of this thing, that how things happen, and even in British time, actually, earlier it was not in agriculture. It was series of droughts in British time, and there was a famine commission which was set up by Britishers. In fact, three famine commissions. First famine commission, then second famine commission, then third famine commission. And 1900, they came out with the famine code. And those days, actually, uh, people were thinking that relief, because the major issue was farmers and poor people. So Ministry of Agriculture, Food, that was the appropriate, this thing. And in India, if you see historically, we were having floods and droughts. And farmers were affected mainly. Now things are changed. Now after these super cyclone of Odisha, after Gujarat earthquake, when more than 100 villages affected, some of the villages they were completely razed. So then I think group of ministers they thought that I think agriculture is not the right place, and there was recommendation that it should be shifted from agriculture to Ministry of Home Affairs, and it become earlier it was relief centric totally. Now it is more response centric. So response, because this is more visible and you have disaster management, you have specialized forces, NDRF, and so Ministry of Home Affairs is the most appropriate in that condition.
So, you are seeing the journey of disaster management, which is now being called the disaster risk reduction. So, this is an important subject now. And how do you see the future of this particular subject here in India or even in Asia?
Actually, speaking that I'm seeing a lot of change. Earlier, if you talk to bureaucrats, our district collectors, because at district level, district collector is the officer. Earlier, the thinking was that there is flood or drought or some disaster, you provide relief and then wait for another disaster. In fact, there was a calendar that these are the flood months, so that's how there was preparedness meeting, etc. The focus was not on preparedness, mitigation, or now things changed. There was a paradigm shift, and during IDNDR, I should say that United Nations, they played very important role. And they created lots of awareness. And I will say that country, at least India was highly benefited by IDNDR. And not only we set up a national center for disaster management, but we realized that it is one subject in which other ministries, there are many stakeholders, and they should be involved. It should be in education. And during this 10 years when this center was here in IIPA, we try to involve each and every stakeholder. We hold workshops for the NGOs, program for, because NGOs were also in relief. They were not knowing that what can be done before disaster. They were not knowing what kind of rehabilitation or these recovery issues. So that were not there. We conducted workshop in central universities, in Aligarh, in, Jamia Millia, in Delhi University. So we reached to the academic people and we said that you have a very important role. Each and every, today you will see that more than 100 universities are offering certificate, degree, even the research, they are doing research. 24, 25 universities, they are giving postgraduate degree. So there is a change. And we see that IIPA is having its contribution in that. We started that all stakeholders should be there. Otherwise, you cannot have disaster risk reduction.
Professor Sharma, you also worked at the micro levels. If I remember correctly, you were chief of party of the USAID and worked for the 6 countries. At present, you are the vice chairman of the Sikkim Disaster Management Authority. So, any insights at the micro level that you like to share with us?
Dr. Alok, very important. And these two are really, I got lots of learning, from both the my assignments. I'm thankful to IIPA that they allowed me to go to USAID project. This was a peer program for enhancement of emergency response. And it was for 5 countries, Asian countries. And for the first time, I realized that India, we are in a very good situation actually. If we compare it with Nepal, if we compare it with Bangladesh, with Philippines, with Indonesia, we are much better. And we have a capacity for leadership, in this project. I was dealing with the response. In fact, you will be happy to note that the NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, the basic training of NDRF, which is Medical First Responder Course, Collapse Structure Search and Rescue, even the Hospital Preparedness Course, that was designed by us, with the help of Johns Hopkins University. And I gave it to 5 countries. So that 3-4 years experience, my exposure, that where we stand in Asia and what can be done, in response. So that came from this posting. And I really, enjoyed this because India, when 2001 earthquake was there, I was there on 27th of January. 26th there was earthquake, and next day I reached there with great difficulty. And we could see that people are crying and we are unable to do anything. You cannot take out them. They were under rubble. They were alive. So I realized, in fact, I was not going anywhere because setting up of National Center for Disaster Management was my passion. I left many jobs, I left job of UNDP. I thought that let me set up this center in the end. This will be my contribution for this subject. So it was my passion. I was doing it passionately and I was not willing to join this USAID program. But after this Gujarat thing, it was crying. Myself and the joint secretary, we were crying there because we couldn't do anything. People were having cranes and all these things which were not of no use. They will kill them in case. So I realized that let me go and see what people do in other countries, developed countries. And from this USAID project, in fact, I got the insight of response. And today, whatever you are seeing, NDRF, or not only in this country, but in Asia, this is because of the peer program. The basic is that. I'm not saying we gave a state-of-the-art training, no. But the basic training provided by us, and it can be further, upgraded, or I will not say that it is enough. But the basic training was from that program. Now, Sikkim, this is another very good opportunity, and you know that IIPA used to help assist, different states, and they requested IIPA management that I should be deputed, or I should assist, Sikkim as vice chair of Sikkim Disaster Management Authority, and they gladly agreed, and it was a good experience. Still, they are not leaving me, and it's an honorary position. But good point is that whatever I learned in books, whatever my experience of Orissa super cyclone, or of Gujarat earthquake, or of tsunami, or of peer program, I have seen many reconstruction, rehabilitation. So whatever little knowledge I was having, I could give that knowledge to the state. And I'm very happy to say to you that the state is very positive. They took, they know that he is working honorary position. So whatever I was recommending, they accepted it as. So the reconstruction, and I invite you to Sikkim and see that the reconstruction which is done after the 2011 earthquake, it is disaster resilient. Even the houses which they construct in villages, 8,760 houses, it is not a very big reconstruction. But important thing is that it was participatory. So there was ownership. People realized that yes, we are part of it. It was not given to the contractor or something. No, no. It was totally honor driven, participatory. It is earthquake resistant. It was timely. We provide them every material, giving them option. Either you buy from the market or from the government. So the whole reconstruction was within time. It is earthquake resistant. There is not a single court case. There is not a single litigation, because panchayats decide that who is the beneficiary and how this money should go to them, and no conflict at all. Not only this, there are many programs which are started by Government of India. It may be school safety program, it may be any other program. They accepted it as it is, and Sikkim, now NDMA, and they recognize that yes, I think in disaster risk reduction they are doing a very good job, and I am happy that I am part of it.
Right? So you converted the theory into practice and
Exactly.
theorized the practice.
Exactly.
Now, coming back to the Disaster Management Act, do you see reasons that it's need to be revisited, particularly from the perspective of the current pandemic, where the role of the center, states, and local governments are extremely important? So, do you see that after 15 years or so, the Disaster Management Act need to be revisited?
In fact, you know that now it is more than 15 years. And this was the first act, after this epidemic act we were having it long back, about more than 100 years back. So the Disaster Management Act, this was the first thing with us. But fortunately, in this pandemic, it was very useful, and country utilized it. But you rightly said that now, after 15 years, and with this experience, which we faced, I think there is a need that we should relook and add, a few things. Uh, uh, there was one effort which was made by Dr. V.K. Mishra, and there was a committee which was set up by Government of India to relook the this disaster
You
management.
contributed in that as
I
well.
was also, he invited me for this thing. So what I could see that there is need, there should be full-fledged, we should see that which aspect can be added now. And because this epidemic, as you rightly mentioned, it came after 100 years, and it affected our economy, the whole country is affected by that. So definitely, I will say that we should relook the act and see that how it can become more effective. We can take advice of district level officials, and I am advocating right from the beginning that there is enough thing when they have given at national level, state level, even district level, but the grassroots level, panchayat level, there should be some committees at panchayat level or authority, I should say, at block level. That is missing, and that is missing right from the beginning. The role of non-governmental organization, role of academic organization, role of institutions like Indian Institute of Public Administration. So that there are many things which can come.
So you mean the role of the panchayat and municipalities needs to be integrated in the
Definitely.
Disaster Management Act 2005.
Definitely.
I'm now coming to the financing of disaster management. It's a very important subject, and the Union Finance Commission has been looking after this for very, very long. There is a full-fledged chapter of the Union Finance Commission report on disaster management. Recently, the 15th Finance Commission they submitted the report, which is also accepted there in the Parliament. So, how do you see the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commissions on disaster management?
Actually, I should be grateful to 15 Finance Commission that for the first time, you were with the Finance Commission earlier, and you know that always disaster financing, they worked on that. But only one aspect they were considering, that is calamity relief fund. For each state, they used to divide, and there was a formula that 75% central government and 25% state government. So this was going on. For the first time, 15th Finance Commission took it very seriously. They studied, Sindai framework, and they consulted NDMA, they consulted INIDM, they consulted some of the experts of disaster management, and for the first time, disaster mitigation fund is given as a recommendation that at national level as well as state level, there should be mitigation fund, because we are talking about disaster mitigation since long time, and we were saying that there is a paradigm shift now, but where was the money? If you ask state government that you do this mitigation measure, they always say, where is the money? Now for bigger projects, NDMA or central government, they can sanction. If there is a bigger project on landslide or earthquake mitigation, or you might be knowing that now Government of India is taking loan from World Bank. They have taken loan for National Cyclone Mitigation Program. They have taken loan for National Earthquake Mitigation Program. So I think mitigation is in the focus. And 15th Finance Commission for the first time realized it. And so this is a unique thing which I am seeing, and I am saying that I am thankful to them for this thing. Otherwise, relief fund, we were always talking relief, and we have come out from the relief, and we are going for pre-disaster actions, mitigation measures. short term, long term, and this is one gain of 15 Finance Commission.
Now, Professor Saab, this question is from the perspective of the Institute of Public Administration. You are here for last 30 years or so. I'm here for the last 20 years or so. This disaster risk reduction is a very, very important component of public administrations. And I can see that you have been working in this area. You are imparting training on the subject, which is very well received. How do you see uh, a specialized center on the subject here in IIPA in future?
Dr. Alok is still, because one is that disaster management is a very big subject. There are two things where IIPA again, can work, and I'm sure, that in case people like you and our DG or they realize, there are two areas where still there is a lot of scope. One is drought management. And drought, nobody is looking after that because it is still with Ministry of Agriculture. And NIDM, apart from one or two training program on drought mitigation or management, they are not doing, it need lot of research. It need, consultation with the stakeholders. And you know that still in India, 60% of arable land is drought prone. So in case, this is one area where drought administration and this can be taken up on priority, and we can take help from Ministry of Agriculture. So this is one. Second thing is that DRR is a very important component of governance. And in Sindhi framework, which our Honorable Home Minister signed in 2015, there are 4 priorities of Sindhi framework. First priority is knowing risk. And second priority is disaster risk governance. I think this we should take lead from this, and we have signed it. There is another point that Honorable Prime Minister in Asian Ministers Conference in 2016, he gave 10-point program. And in the 10-point program, the first program is that all sectors of administration, every sector in development, they should consider disaster risk reduction. So I think these two things, in case you consider, then IIPA is having a very important role, because this is the premier institution and we are already, you know it, that every year in IIPA program there is a regular stream on disaster risk reduction. Whenever you have also conducted program for Nepal and other countries, we are giving a special session on disaster management. But I think for India and for Asia, I think we should give this governance aspect, which is not being covered by the NIDM or any other institution. How to incorporate it in the part of. So Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy and Indian Institute of Public Administration, they can play a very important role in this. And we have still a place, in disaster risk.
So Sharma, my last question to you. With your experience, do you want to give any message to the younger colleagues here at IIPA?
Doctor, this is, as I told you that I worked in so many universities. I worked abroad. I was in United States on fellowships. I was in Canada on a fellowship. IIPA is a unique institution. And it provides you lots of opportunities. So to my young colleagues, I will say that take full use of that, because this kind of freedom, this kind of independent thinking, innovation, in case you can do something, in case you want to do something for the country, academy, this is the right place. And I am still saying the same thing, which I am saying since last 29 years, that I am fortunate that I got this opportunity and I am serving this institution. I was a teacher, I was happy, I was getting good salary and petrodollars, etc. So I was very happy. But I could do something substantial. It's a satisfaction in my life that I could do something. This was possible only with the Indian Institute of Public Administration. So my thinking is that be sincere to your job, be sincere to the institute, and you will get recognition definitely. You will get your dues. Always, I have seen in my life that in case you are working hard, in case you are working for some cause, maybe it will take time, but definitely it will pay them.
Thank you so very much, Professor Sharma, for your time, and then you share your insight, which is very, very useful. So this was all in this edition of Bharat Lok Niti Samvad, and we'll be coming back once again on some other subject with some other personalities. So thank you so very much, and thank you.